Coat Agents Podcast.
Lab Coat Nation, welcome back to another episode of the Lab Coat Agents Podcast. And I'm excited for today because I jumped into this interview, which many times I've never met the guest ever. I have no idea who they are other than reading a bio or, reading an email. Today, we jumped on the call, which we're doing this via Zoom. Most of you are probably listening. And I'm like, I recognize you from somewhere. And turns out we've got a good mutual friend, business partner, and Dan Lesniak. And guess where I have seen this gentleman all over the place is on TikTok, no less, which is fantastic. And we're going to talk a little bit about that today, but that's not why he's here. Our guest today is Sunil Saxena out of the DC market, DMV area, a doctor turned real estate investor, home builder, renovator, general contractor, best-selling author, 20 years of experience in the real estate industry. And here I am. That's why we were meeting, but here I am most excited about the TikTok aspect.
Right.
Sunil, welcome to the show, my man.
Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah, thanks for having me. Great that we have this mutual connection with Dan, but just really happy to be here.
Awesome. So first of all, let's tell our audience a little bit about yourself. You made the obvious segue transition that, everybody makes from doctor to real estate investor. I kid, of course. Tell us about your background. What got, you went to school, a lot of school to earn a lot of money and said, nah, I don't want to do that anymore.
Yeah. Well, my story is that, I'm Indian. That's my background. So I think we all have to go to medical school. So I kind of required or something like that. But I got into a 6-year program real early, right out of high school. So I actually graduated medical school when I was 23. So really young. Didn't really have a chance to, figure out what I wanted to do with my life, that type of thing. And once you kind of get in the medical profession, you next step, you just keep going for years, decades off sometimes. But I always knew I was an entrepreneur, even way back. I still remember like in high school and, early college, I was kind of, man, if I just started the store, how would this work? And I always was thinking that way. And I practiced here in DC for about 8 years and just got really kind of tired of the grind. The nights, weekends, holidays, all this kind of stuff. I knew I needed to get out. But as you mentioned, most doctors never get out because it's so difficult to make that transition. But yeah, I just was able to transition. Love real estate, tried other businesses as well, but real estate really was the one that I think is, to me, the best business, the way to go. And really, I think you mentioned something about making a lot of money. It's a lot of school, but it's not a lot of money. That's the problem with medicine right now. It's you make good money. You have a very good living, but it's not, certainly not, doctors aren't rich and building wealth right now.
I think the commoner does think that. I get it. Like doctors come out with, it probably takes 10 years to get over the hump, right?
Right.
But is that just a complete misconception?
Yeah, I'm surprised I still hear that because I know, again, from the layman's way, everybody says that. What you say is everybody says that to me. It's like, oh, doctors make a lot of money. But my mom she's still alive, but she was a practicing pediatrician, and she practiced in the, like 80s, mostly 80s and into the 90s. And they were making a lot of money back then. A general surgeon was making like $1 million was normal, and now they're making like 150, 180. I was making, about 200,000 a year, which is, again, not bad, but you're not going to build wealth and do all the cool stuff that real estate allows with making a couple $100,000 a year. So again, yes, it's a good living. It's not like doctors are poor by any stretch, but they certainly aren't rich. So
interesting. I did not know that. This is a real estate podcast, but this happens often with me because I go down different paths in the beginning of these conversations. Let me ask one last question because my audience is going to get annoyed with me unless they're as goofy as I am and like this stuff. What has changed in that industry that $1 million has now been suppressed to 150?
Oh, wow. We can talk about medicine. I can talk about it all day long. Really, insurance companies, when they came in, managed healthcare, that was what happened in the 80s and 90s. I don't know, depending on your listener's age, if you remember all that stuff. The HMOs came in. So really the problem with medicine fundamentally is that it's not a free market business. So again, I build condos. So what happens, my material costs have gone up 10% this year, right? Just in the last 6 months. Guess what? I'm going to go sell that condo for 10% more. No problem. It's market's actually up even more than 10%. Medicine, you can't do that. The insurance companies tell you what you can charge. So in the emergency room, for example, we have 5 billing codes and that's it. depending on the complexity. There's more, but it basically boils down to these 5. And our whole goal is just to get the patient up to a little bit higher to the next level up. But the insurance company basically tells you for level 3, you're going to get reimbursed this. It doesn't matter if I spent 5 hours with that patient or I spent 5 minutes with that patient. So again, you can imagine costs keep going up. Just one small example I can remember of costs when this is again, at least a decade ago, but in Maryland, there was a big insurance crisis and all the insurers left Maryland. There was only one insurance company left that would insure physicians, it's emergency physicians. And our premium went up 4 times that year. So we were paying 4X on our malpractice insurance, yet there's no room at all to change the billing. So it's kind of like an artificial thing that's been created here by insurance companies and the government. Even again, I can go on and on about this, but my ex-wife is a dentist, and the same thing. Like when you sign a contract with an insurance company, you can't bill their patient anymore. That's it. They tell you this is all you can bill that patient. So, and again, the doctors can't get together. They don't have a union or something to fight the insurance companies. And so as a single solo practitioner, you can't fight an insurance company. And without the insurance company, your half your patient flow is gone. So it's an artificial system that's been created that kind of has really allowed them to drive the cost of at least the salaries of physicians down.
Fascinating. And sounds like a crock of you know what, but
It is.
I'll leave that right there. So when you said, you were a doctor, you were doing well, and you said, you knew you had entrepreneur in you. At what point I don't know if you mentioned this, like how far were you into your doctor career when you said, I'm going to shift? And I assume the shift was, I'm going to tiptoe in and I'm going to keep being a doctor while I invest until I build up enough of a, maybe income or revenue stream that I can break away. Is that what you did?
Yeah, even during my residency, I did my residency from age 28 to 31, so 3-year residency. I pretty much even knew at that point that this is not what I want to do long term. It's not what I want to do with my life. But again, you're in the profession, you don't want to quit, you want to finish it off. I got married, whatever, family bills are coming. You can't just say, I'm going to give up my medicine career right in the middle of this residency. But yeah, for me, I think one of the interesting things is the more you earn, the harder it is to transition to something else. So if you're making $50,000 a year, it's relatively easy to replace that income with something else. But I was between 2 to 250 is what I was making a year as a ER doc. And it's a big hurdle when you're starting out to replace that type of income. And again, when you're married, you have kids, you have a mortgage, your family and your friends are like, wait, what are you doing? You're out doing, rehabbing a house? Like, what's going on here, man? Like, you're supposed to be in the emergency room working, right? So it's a difficult transition, but for me, I couldn't just leave medicine 100% and then just jump over. I had to kind of, do it while I was working in the ER. I had to kind of build this business on the side, which was quite demanding.
I love this. And this, I think, is a great topic because this piece of this topic will cover really anybody, everybody kind of, I think, no matter what profession, no matter what you do, even realtors, they stop and think to themselves, at what point do I start investing? And so what is your advice for somebody who's achieved great success doing it? Where do you start when you dabble over while you're still maintaining a probably 40-hour plus a week job?
Yeah, I think you need to build a capital base. Again, real estate, you don't have to have money to become a real estate investor. You can build a capital base, but when you start doing rehabs and actually investing in real estate, you do need some level of capital. I always say about 50,000 or more, that kind of gets you into the game. So what I did is, again, as a physician, I was able to, have that capital ready. And really you can do, you can do a couple of rehabs or buy some properties and manage them. You can't do like 10 or 20 rehabs a year. That's a full-time job, but a couple a year to get yourself started. That's how I started exactly. Did a couple and then just built that more and more. And then the cash flow started coming. It's like, okay, in 2009, I still remember I was like, okay, this is it. This is enough money now. I can officially stop working in the emergency room.
Awesome. And so what did that entail? So when you say, okay, I'm going to go buy probably single family, I'm assuming, you would do rehabs. Were you swinging hammers? Were you hiring contractors at GC? Like, what was your strategy and what do you recommend to the young potential real estate investor on how to crack it? What's the best way? Because I'm sure you've had many failures along the way as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think any successful person is, there's, probably more failures than success, to be honest, but, people look at the success and, oh, wow, look at all the stuff this guy's done. We don't, tend to look at the failures, which is fine, which is, good. But yeah, my first two deals were just simple rehabs. I think I bought the first house for 200. I put about 50 into it. Sold for about 350. I probably made about 50,000 on it, but it was, because I didn't realize all the extra fees I was paying, and I thought I spent 50, probably spent more like 75. That's really what I did. I recommend just starting, I like rehab to start. That's I think it's the quickest way to build your capital base. Because again, you can take 50,000, turn it into 100,000, which is what I did in that very first deal. I don't recommend using a GC at all for rehabs. I think they're too small of projects. There's not a profit to pay a GC. And really, you got to know what's going on with these projects. This idea of getting rehabs and just having a GC handle it just doesn't work. You got to know what's going on. You got to be on top of the project. GCs are notorious for, oh, well, we got other jobs going on. We'll get back to you in 2 weeks. Their incentive is to do more work because they get paid more the more work they do. So you got to know what really needs to be done in this house, what doesn't. So yeah, I think you just have to get going, and that's what I did. I didn't really know much about how to rehab a house when I did my first couple, but I learned along the way. After about 5, I was like, okay, I think I got this.
So you were doing the GCing yourself?
I was essentially, yeah, I'm still a GC. I still GC all our projects, and the large ones we do now. And I recommend that. I just don't think with small rehabs there's enough budget to hire a competent GC.
That's interesting, and I think that's really good advice. But that's also there requires some level of expertise. I've done plenty of rehabs myself. I failed miserably at it, partially because of the time that I did it. We were buying all our properties 04, 05, 06, and you know what happened the subsequent years. So we just got hammered. But in terms of, I remember what it was like, and still managing contractors is a job in and of itself, getting them to show up, sometimes going there and actually managing them to get the job done. And what kind of advice would you have for somebody? So you recommend no GC, there's not enough profit margin. And by the way, you're in DC, like the price point is much higher. I'm in St. Louis. Your 200,000 is my 75. Mm-hmm. Right. So, and I'm not going to flip that for 300. I'm going to flip it for 150 or 175. So my profit margin is going to be lower. So I'm got to pinch pennies even further. Mm-hmm. Any advice that you would have for that young investor when they're, they say, okay, I'm going to take Sunil's advice. I'm going to GC. I'm going to manage. I'm going to hire a plumber and a carpenter and blah, blah, blah. Right. Is there any advice that you would give them in terms of how to find the right ones? Is there certain interview process that you incorporate? Anything like that? Any advice you can give?
Yeah, I actually have some videos out on my YouTube channel about that exact topic of how to find the right contractors. Go check that out if you guys are interested in more detailed explanation. But
what's the name of your page?
It should be just my name. It's the Sunil Saxena. That's all my handles: Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. But really in this business, there's no like website you can go to, or there's no like, just go check this out and this is where all the contractors are. Because we're not looking for the guys with the fancy trucks and have the logos, that they have an office that answers their phones. We want guys that are competent, do a good job, are licensed and insured, but just usually like they have their own small business, right? They kind of have maybe a couple of guys that work for them, they're electrician or plumber, whatever. The best way is word of mouth. You really got to just go, you start with 1 or 2 good ones. You find somebody and then they got another guy. You need a carpenter. Oh yeah, they got that guy. I just remember actually one of our bigger jobs, one of the concrete guys, we need an extra framer. And I was like, hey, do you know any framers? He's like, yeah, I got a couple of guys I know. So we contacted them. We're like, wow, these guys are really good. So now we have 2 extra framing crews that are really good. So I think it's that. The other strategy I always say is like actually go to Home Depot. That's where the contractors hang out. You literally go there and you just start talking to people, and then you'll start getting, okay, this guy might know that guy, that type of thing. But yeah, it's really a word of mouth type of business. You can go, I guess one of the guys called it dumpster driving, where you go and look for dumpsters around town where there's construction going on. And you just politely go into the job site and see who's working that day and see what trade they are. And then, if you need that trade, great. If you don't, say, hey, I need a so-and-so, and that person might be, oh yeah, I got a plumber for you or an electrician or whatever. So it's that kind of a business. You don't need like 100 subs. You need maybe like 10 or 15. So it's not like a tremendous amount. You just have to start lining those guys up that can do the work for you at the right price.
That's fascinating. And then in terms of backup, so you have a carpenter, you have a plumber, whatever. Do you have layers of each trade?
Yeah, I always recommend try to have up to 3. It depends on the volume you're doing. So if you're only doing 1 or 2 rehabs a year, it's gonna be hard to have like, 3 different plumbers because you can't keep them busy. So you just kind of pick the best one. With us, we have over 200 units in 200 units in development right now with condos. So we have at least 3 of each. I mean, minimum 3 plumbers we can call because we can't. I mean, we would overwhelm one plumber with all the work we have. So yeah, I recommend a deep bench, but again, it depends on the volume you're doing.
Interesting. Awesome. So let's talk about the next level then. So at what point did you say, all right, I've gotten, I'm doing a couple of rehabs. That's how you started. What does that progression look like and to lead you to where you are today?
Yeah, there's what in my mind, there's like 3 types of rehabs. One is where you operate in the current footprint. So you buy a house, you carpet, paint, new kitchens, baths, whatever. Number 2 is expanding the footprint. So that's adding a family room or a kitchen or adding square footage in some way. And then number 3 is just ground up where you scrape the house completely and then you kind of build something new. So I went through that exact progression. My first so many were just, basic rehabs. And I started going, if I added a family room here, this house would be worth a lot more. And we just did that. And then I started a new home building company because I realized that you can even make more money there. So I just kind of kept working up bigger and bigger projects. And you just have to see like what kind of makes sense for you.
Well, what did that time frame look like for you?
Started doing rehabs at 08, like right after the crash, 08, 09. Started a new home building company in 2012. And then really started doing bigger projects, probably 2018.
Really? Okay. So about 10 years.
Yeah.
And what year did you say that you stepped fully away from medicine?
2009.
Okay. That was only a year. Interesting. Okay.
Yeah, I was within about a year. Well, actually I was doing some other like businesses as well that weren't like not real estate related, so that helped me a little bit. But yeah, it was about 2 to 3 years of doing rehabs before I could really say that money was enough to replace my income.
I mean, it's a good gauge. It's why it's fun to talk to people that actually live and breathe and do it, because I think somebody listening is thinking to themselves, I hate selling real estate, or I hate being a teacher, or I hate whatever it is I'm doing. I hate my corporate America job. I want to do this. What's realistic? If I start dabbling in it, how many years do I have to put in? And I know it's not going to be one size fits all. It's going to be very different for everybody, but I think I love that. It's good 2 to 3 years is what you can expect. That's fantastic. So now let's fast forward to 2018. What you say big, what are you doing now?
Right. Yeah, I guess big is all relative, right? Depends on who you're talking to. So we're doing between 6 and 50 unit buildings right now in DC. That's our focus. So we just last week purchased a 36 unit where we bought a building and we're going to turn it into 36 luxury condos. So, the game or whatever in urban areas is increasing density and increasing square footage. So you buy whatever property you buy, and you go up, you go back, you go down, whatever you can do to increase that square footage because it's so valuable in urban centers. But yeah, that's our MO right now is basically those projects. So I would consider them probably medium size compared to, there's guys doing 100, 200 unit projects or even bigger. But for us, that's probably 50 units is our biggest project right now.
So tell me about this building that you just bought. What is it now?
It's a freestanding building. It was owned by a bank. And it's right on Georgia Avenue, which is the main corridor from downtown DC all the way up to Silver Spring, Maryland. Or I don't know if Silver Spring, but Maryland. And yeah, it's a freestanding building. The bank moved to the building next door, and they just had this kind of extra building laying around. So we bought it, we analyzed it, and yeah, we're building 36 units there now.
So what was it now? An office building?
It is. It was just a freestanding kind of old bank building. Yeah, exactly.
Interesting. So it takes a little bit of creative thinking, to think outside the box and think, what can I do with a building that had nothing to do with residential real estate? So there's some zoning involved. There's going to be all that kind of thing as well, right?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like you mentioned, it probably takes you about a decade to start doing projects like this because I can teach you how to do a rehab, relatively quickly, but what we do now is we have to have an architect, an engineer, we have to know zoning, we have to really analyze the project. There's a lot of moving parts. Just the permitting process in DC is a nightmare. I mean, it's 6 months to a year to get the permit because there's so many departments and all that. So again, simple rehabs can be, relatively quickly you can get started in them. But if you want to graduate to what I call like level 4 and level 5 stuff, which is bigger projects, you need that experience to really kind of be able to do this.
It's fascinating. And so now I'm going to totally shift a little bit. I mentioned obviously in the very beginning, your use of social media and even more specific TikTok, and you and Dan are doing some amazing things. You've grown some massive following. Let's start with this because there's context here. So as a real estate agent, I want you to hear this because this is outside the box thinking and what they've done with it. And if you guys know Dan Lesniak, he's not like the guy, he's very dry. Great dude. Once you get to know him, especially once you get into his circle, he's actually really funny. But if you don't know him, he keeps a hard outer shell, right? So Dan and TikTok just don't go together. And I imagine, Sunil, the doctor, right? The real estate investor. Come on, that's not going to be interesting on TikTok, but you guys are crushing it. So where did this start? What was the idea behind this? Was it accidental? Was it intentional? Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, we decided actually last fall, Dan and I, we hired a full-time social media person because really our end game with social media is raising capital, because if the more capital we can raise, the more projects we can do. So that's how we monetize it. And the bigger footprint and the presence we have, then more people are interested in our projects. We can get them out to show people, things like that. In fact, we have one of our top links on our social media is our webinar, which takes us takes you to the investing, our investment, our fund. So last fall we decided to do it. We started in January. The person started, I remember, in first week of January. And since then we've really, been very fortunate that it's taken off. I'm at 630,000 on TikTok and 129 on Instagram. Wow. So it's working. There seems to be a demand, or people want to learn about this stuff. We're actually launching a course here. We're thinking next week, maybe it might be a couple more weeks, but we're hoping for next week. And we've got, already 1,600 people on our list that are interested in the course. So I think there's a hunger out there for this type of stuff. Because truly, this is not I'm not a big fan of crypto, so I consider crypto kind of a scam. I know that's controversial right now. But this is the real deal. I mean, real estate really can provide you financial freedom, wealth building, all these incredible, the lifestyle I live right now. I still sometimes wow, this is really cool. And no way medicine ever would have been able to do that in a million years. I think we're just fortunate to be able to do it. And I think there's a demand out there for people that want to do stuff like this. So, that's probably the reason why our channels have done well.
That's awesome. So tell us a little bit about the strategy. I mean, because again, I think a lot of people struggle just with, they understand TikTok because it's entertaining to them, but how to bring it back to business is challenging. So what is your guys' strategy? What does that look like? How did you guys come up with that strategy?
Well, I think, and the first thing you have to decide is with TikTok, especially, are you going to be entertainment or education, and really stick to one or the other? I think that's what Dan struggled with before. He was kind of trying to be funny and trying to be entertaining, but it's like you said, that's not Dan, right? That's not who he is.
There's a new word now, edutainment.
I know, but I'm advocating pick one.
Okay, gotcha.
So it's you can try. You could. I actually, believe it or not, I do some stand-up comedy as well. I was just at a show last night. Sebastian Maniscalco. I just saw him last night. Incredible. I love that guy. So if you're listening, Sebastian, thumbs up, man. So I understand how difficult it is to be entertaining and funny. It's not that as easy as it looks sometimes. So anyways, I think, my platform, and when I told Dan, dude, just stick to bringing value to people from all the experience you've had. And that really allowed him to take off. So that's the first step, is just deciding what you're going to do. I think most of us probably on this call are going to be more education than entertainment. And then from there, it's just, when I first started, we were posting 10 times a day. It was a pretty, we had a full-time guy doing it. My son was helping me as well. Now that we've built up a following, I'm posting on 1 or 2 times a day. But it's just understanding the time to post, the hashtags, the type of content, the hooks. There's a lot of things that go into it that I think have made us successful.
So give me an example of a video that performed very well. First, let's talk about performance in terms of social media. But then second question, one that's performed very well that turned into opportunity or brought you an investor or something like that.
Yeah, we've, I don't know if there's a specific video that brought us investors, but just our general presence out there. It helps people get to our meetup group. I know a lot of people I've met there. They say, "Oh yeah, I saw you on Instagram, and I wanted to come meet you," that kind of thing. And it's hard to track exactly where the investors came from, but in general, that presence really helps us. As far as like specific videos, it's more, I think the formula to me is like, like a strong hook, and then one or two points in the middle, and then like a call to action at the end. So I see a lot of people do none of those three things. They just kind of like say stuff or
like,
whatever.
Hey, happy Monday.
Right.
Exactly. God, I hate that.
Like,
I hate that.
You're just going to keep scrolling. So, yeah, I think, a strong hook is one of the most important things. Is as people are scrolling, they want to, if you hook them, they're going to be like, oh, okay, what is this guy saying, or something like that. So again, it's a couple. I'm just trying to think through off the top of my head some videos that have done well. It was one was, again, my number one mistake in real estate, or the biggest mistake I made in real estate. People are, oh, what is it? What is it? I want to know. We have a thing about how to like help teens make $1,000 to $5,000 a month, like through bird dogging and things like that. So it's like the hook is, how to make $1,000 to $5,000 a month as a teen. So just things like that tend to build the audience, or not build the audience. I'm sorry, but make people watch the entire video.
Yeah, create intrigue is basically what you're trying to do. Yeah, I mean, you've got 3 to 5 seconds tops to grab their attention. We preach this. We have a video school, so we preach the hell out of this. Like, use a damn hook, and I cringe every time. Mm-hmm. And then still to this day, I think people just get nervous. They get in front of the camera and then they just immediately want to say, "Hi guys," right. But that's all you got. Like that's how you're either going to win or lose with that.
By the time you say hi guys, they've already scrolled past.
Correct. Yeah, I love it. Okay, so TikTok is one, and standing ovation, applause. Love what you're doing. You guys need to go check them out. The Sunil Saxena. On Instagram, TikTok, YouTube. But let's talk a little bit about Instagram too, because I think this is important. And I'm driving this home because I believe that TikTok is the future of social media. Whether it is TikTok or not, TikTok is driving where social media is going. Whether or not Zuckerberg figures that out and actually execute it, because you're on Instagram, so you know that Instagram sucks in comparison to TikTok. Reels sucks compared to TikTok. But we have to use it because the platform wants us to. So what about Instagram? You have a similar strategy, different strategy? How are you using Instagram in comparison to TikTok?
Yeah, the strategy when we started in January was, because TikTok's really the only way you can grow organically right now. Honestly, everything else is kind of pay for play. So the idea is like grow your TikTok and then let it feed everything else. And that's exactly how it's worked. I was skeptical when I started too. I was like, is this really going to work? I mean, people are going to go from TikTok to other platforms, but we did. I've got 6,500 on my YouTube channel now, just 100% through just driving people over there.
Really?
My Instagram's at 129,000, and we've spent zero. All that's organic, like zero ad spend. So really what we do is we just take the same content and we just put it over to Instagram, and then we do also some extra stuff on Instagram. Really, that's all we've done. And it's kind of driven a lot of people over there. I think some people like using Instagram better. It's just more comfortable for them, so they go over there. I'm trying to think what else we do. I just recently stopped, but I was doing daily lives as well. I know Dan does a lot of that, but we were doing it every day at 11 o'clock Eastern. It was just getting too much. I couldn't keep doing it, but we would take those would become part of the content every day, and people would watch them, and it would build the audience. So
alive on Instagram.
On both, we would go live on TikTok and Instagram.
So just using two phones.
Yep, exactly. Right.
Love it. So that leads me to another question that I think a lot of people might be interested in. I am. When you hired this social media person, A, are they local? And B, what are you looking for? Like, so you guys said we need a social media person. Well, that's really broad. When you sat down and said, this is what we want you to do, what did that look like? Because I think there's a lot of successful real estate professionals that thinking I should probably do the same thing.
I would highly recommend it. I mean, I think he actually ended up having to leave because him and his wife moved down to Atlanta. So he was local. His wife got into school down there, so he moved down there. So we have another person now, but I highly recommend it. Budget $30,000 to $50,000. I mean, if you can do that, it really does help your brand. I can give you examples of real estate agents just here in DC that have really blown up on TikTok and social media, and that's really allowed them to almost become like locally famous a little bit, and they get these listings they would have never gotten otherwise. And the interesting thing is that TikTok, it kind of works like this, right? It's like your son or some younger person's looking at TikTok and they're like, oh, wow, my dad said he wants to sell his house. Hey, Dad, look at this real estate agent on TikTok, right? So you said that's so people think, oh, like, real people aren't on TikTok. It works, trust me.
Yes.
It absolutely works. So Yeah, I think we just said like our goal, we just said like we our ultimate target was maybe like 1 million followers on Instagram at some point. That was our ultimate goal. We hired someone who felt that we gave him some examples of people in the real estate business who had done it. And he said, yeah, well, I really think we can get you about 30,000 by next January. So that was our goal, 30,000 by January of 2022. And here we are at 130,000 in June of 2021. So I think it's a combination of just, being strategic about it, doing it every day, doing it religiously. And honestly, I think with my experience, I have a lot to offer. I'm not just some guy out there, been doing this a year, just yapping. So I think people see that. So I think it's all kind of come together a little bit. But again, I highly recommend it.
What is this person's function? What are they doing?
They have like 3 or 4 different things we do. We have some investor funnels that we run separately. So they're just literally, we run cold traffic to these funnels. Then we do our webinars and stuff like that. So that's one big chunk. Number 2 is growing Dan and I social media. So we're focused on TikTok and Instagram. So they help with the editing and the video creation, things like that. We do have about 2 or 3 interns now that just do editing, which is the harder part of this thing. The relatively easy part is recording the videos, but the editing can be a little time consuming. So really the investor funnels, the social media, and our third big bucket now is education. So we're launching courses, and we have a one-day seminar coming up in October as well for investors. So we're building all those systems out right now. So probably those 3 big buckets is what this person is responsible
Awesome.
for.
So a lot of it really is, because a lot of people think videographer, but that's not what you want. You're actually probably just shooting yourself on the camera and then just sending them raw footage, and they're taking it and doing all sorts of fun things. Because these, I say kids, you and I are probably a similar age. That's what they're born and bred to do. They all know how to do it, relatively speaking. So there's actually a lot of talent out there, and you can get them relatively cheap. And you guys are a great example. You hired somebody, they moved away, but by that point, you probably knew exactly what you wanted and needed. So it made it easier to find the next one, right?
Right. Yeah. You don't need a videographer at all. You don't want like super highly produced, high quality videos. Again, the lighting has to be good and the sound has to be good. Those are the 2 things. Because if those aren't good, they can't watch the video. So literally, it's just my son and I will go like once a week, and he'll just record me because I don't like to hold the camera. Yep. And I'll just record it. Then we either he helps with some editing as well as the guy we hired. And they just edit themselves. Yeah, I mean, there's platforms they can just do it right on their phone. It's very easy. Add the script and all that stuff. So yeah, you do not need a videographer, certainly.
I'm the guy who does a lot of that still myself. I have a full-time videographer, but I need a full-time content creator at this point, which is exactly what you guys essentially, that's what you have. It's a content creator. So I love that. I think that's really good advice. So again, and I want to drive this home to everyone. For the first thing I would say to you is there's a couple of really important topics here. One is obviously the real estate investing. That's the obvious. Obviously, Sunil comes from a place of a lot of success and has kind of just climbed up that ladder of success like anybody aspires to do, but also how he's using social media. And so again, I'm going to say it again, the Sunil Saxena. Let me spell it. The Sunil Sax, Saxena, ENA. That's one word, Saxena. So go check that out, follow along, emulate what these guys are doing. I didn't say copy, but that is what social media is, a copycat world. They are in a specific market. You're probably not in their market. You can emulate what they're doing. That's exactly how I learned to do what I do. And I do what you guys do, just at a smaller scale, because I do it all myself. I love it, man. This is great. There's one thing that you mentioned, which was, you're blown away by the wealth that you have grown. And I read in one of your bullet points, the how to drive exotic cars for free. So first of all, you can probably afford said exotic cars, but you're like, I'm going to be smart. I know I'm driving for free.
Right.
That's really good TikTok content. First of all, I'm sure you've already put it out there, but tell us about that.
A little bit about that. Sure. Absolutely. Yeah. I'm number one is I'm an investor, so I can never pay full price for anything. I don't care how much money I have. I still see guys going out buying brand new like Rolls and Bentleys. And I cringe. I'm like, why are you
just pissing money away?
Yeah. So anyways, actually I've partnered with the folks at Exotic Car Hacks. It's a guy who has a course on that whole thing. That's how I learned it, through him. So again, the link's in my bio. He's a true expert at this. So if you really want to do this, which I think is freaking awesome, go check his stuff out. But yeah, I mean, the idea is you just buy these cars at the right, on the depreciation curve. So I just picked up a 2015 Bentley a couple of months ago. Beautiful car, almost looks brand new, 25,000 miles. I was able to get it, negotiate a deal where I bought it for the same price as about a 2014 Bentley, the same, make and model. But really, you want to look at the depreciation curve because it's very steep when the car, brand new car, right? It depreciates very quickly. The nice thing with exotic cars is that usually about the 5 or 6 year mark, the depreciation curve actually flattens. It may trickle down a little bit, but you can essentially sell that car 6 months later or a year later for the same price you bought it for because of the flattening of the curve. And that's why exotic cars actually work better than regular cars like a Mercedes or a BMW, because those curves never really flatten. They kind of, they whatever you call it, turn, but they still trickle like pretty steeply down. Some cars actually go up. They hit a point, they actually go up. So like a lot of Ferraris and stuff, you can actually buy them and hold them, and then you actually sell them for more down the road. So it's just, that's the fundamental concept. It's hard to explain in just like a quick soundbite, but the idea is buy them at the right time and the right price, and then you can basically drive it for free and sell it 6 months to a year later and enjoy the car.
What do you mean by free?
I mean free. I mean, I bought that car for the mid 80s. I can probably sell it today for low 90s. So if you take my taxes that I paid on it to the state of Virginia, my insurance, all that stuff, I can actually either drive it for free or actually make a little bit of money on the car.
In other words, you are doing something with cars that the vast majority of the world is not, which is getting into an appreciating situation versus a depreciating situation.
Correct. It's either appreciating or you're buying it just below the value that you can sell it for.
But the value holds, which is not normal for most cars.
Absolutely. You have to just know the right car and the right time to buy.
Totally fascinating. It's been fun, dude. This is kind of off the wall, all over the place. But you can only talk about real estate so much. And, we're on episode 130 or something. So I've had a lot of real estate conversations. I love having conversations like this because in my opinion, this is it's not even my opinion. The proof is in the pudding. Look what these guys are doing. And Sunil is crushing it. I have zero doubts that you've already hockey sticked curved is what we call it. Right. And your hockey stick's not done probably curving and going up because you probably haven't even fully felt the effects of what you're doing on social. Because that typically takes, you get the followers first and then it materializes. And I love what you said earlier, and I'm going to say it again. Anybody wanting to get into the social media game, it's a really hard ROI to track. We actually have an app where we create done for you content. I have this conversation all the time with the real estate community. It's like, well, what's my ROI going to be? When can I expect to make? And I'm like, it doesn't work that way. It's right. Like a billboard essentially, but way better, far more exponential, right? And more powerful. And so it's like, you're not going to necessarily, I love that you answered that because your answer tells me you're right. You are 100% right. Our business has done this too. I can 100% attribute it to video and social media, but I can't say it happened right here at this video, right? Or it was a culmination over time. Somebody will email me and say, I've been following you for 3 years. I wanted to reach out. I want to come work for you. And it's like, boom, winner, right? And I think that's exactly what's happening to you guys. And you're actually technically in infancy. You're in infancy, yet you just Usain bolted by all of us in terms of followers.
Right. Again, just to reiterate that point, and that's 100% because I did a quick social media panel at one of Dan and Carrie's conferences. They had like 75 realtors in the room, and that was the biggest question is like, well, why are you doing this? Like, what's the point? Are you trying to be famous or what is it? Like, no, I mean, just the amount of credibility it gives you. I mean, like, again, I wrote books because I wanted to write books, but part of it's because I want to be able to say I'm a published author.
Yeah.
So when people say, oh, you're a published author, you got 600,000 on TikTok, you got 120 on, it just gives you credibility, if nothing else. And then people want to work with you. So, don't do it just for that reason, but that's definitely part of this thing. It's not a specific, oh, you're going to make this ROI, that type of thing.
Yep. I love it. And you know what the beauty of it for you and I is most people will never actually fully understand this, which is why the competition will always be somewhat minimal. And so I have no problem standing on stages and, even my own employees tell me that, why are you sharing your secrets? I'm like, because no one's going to follow.
Right. Who does it anyway?
Less than 1%. And so here we are sharing this with this audience. There's going to be thousands of listeners. And I can tell you that many of you, if not all of you, aren't going to do anything with it. So be that 1%, do something with this. That's why you're listening today. You're already taking it one step further than most. You're listening to a podcast. Right. So Sunil, this has been fantastic. Is there anything that you'd like to leave our audience in closing?
No, again, thank you. I've enjoyed it as well. I love talking about real estate, cars, all the stuff we've talked about. So hopefully it was enjoyable, and happy to answer any of their questions.
Awesome, man. Well, go follow Sunil. I assume the best way to connect with you is through your social media.
Correct. Yeah, just DM me there.
Awesome. So shoot him a DM, go check him out. I know I am going to, if I don't already follow you, I'm going to, because I know I've seen you through Dan's stuff. Awesome. Sunil, I have a feeling we're going to connect in real life one of these days at one of the hyper fast events. And I hope we do, and we'll break some bread and have a good time.
All right. Looking forward to it, man. Thank you for having me.
Thanks, brother.
All right. Thanks.
Lab Coat Agents Podcast.